Let's take a look at how to create animated text within After Effects. I'm going to create a new composition and it's going to use the same settings that I last used. That's 1920 by 1080 pixels, 25 frames a second and 150 frames. That's about right. So I'm going to go and hit OK. I'm going to go up to the type tool, and if I start clicking maybe over here on the left side, I'm going to type my text. I like bass, and you can see in my paragraph panel down here that it's left aligned. I can right align it or I can center it. I'm going to have it centered, and if I want to manually move it, I'll go back to my selection tool, click and drag it around there. Now actually I want it to be bang in the center, so in order to do that easily I can go up to the window menu down to align, and then I can align it either to the left side or the right side. I want to align it horizontally in the center and vertically in the center, and that's going to put my text bang in the center. So there I've created my text. Now there's lots of different ways we can animate text within After Effects, but if you're relatively new to After Effects, I highly recommend you going over to the Effects and Presets panel, and inside of the animation presets there is literally hundreds of text animation presets. So I go down there into text, I can see there's my text animation presets. If I twirl that open, there are lots of different categories of pre-made text animations. You can customize them, change the font, change the text, but there is literally hundreds in here. If you want to view them, the easiest way to do that is go up to the extended menu and choose Browse Presets. When you click on Browse Presets, it's going to launch up Adobe Bridge, which is a media application for viewing files, and it shows me I'm in the After Effects folder, in the presets folder, and there's the text category. If I double click, I can now see all the different categories. So let's go into Animate In, double click on that. I can see if I click here, it shows me a small little thumbnail animation of what that preset looks like. You can see these are just Animate In presets, and there's hundreds of them. One of the simplest ones, and probably the one that I use the most, is Typewriter. You can see that literally just punches one character on at a time, but there's many different categories. So if I go back to text, I can see, oh, I've got organic. Let's have a look at some organic text. Autumn, text dropping down like that. Text bouncing in like that. If you're not familiar with these presets, it's well worth spending about 20 minutes just going through them and marking up ones that you find useful. Some of them you'll find very, very useful and it'll take you hours to create yourselves. Some of them you may never use because they're very specific for certain sorts of looks. If you find one you like let's say this one, you can just double click on it, and what that will do is that will apply it inside of After Effects. If I jump back to After Effects now and play that back, I've got that animation preset on my text. Now you don't have to understand the complexity of how these presets are made, but it does help to understand a little bit if you want to modify them. So if I go into my layer and twirl it open, if I go into the text category, I can see I've got something called an animator on there, and that's saying this animator is going to affect the Y position and Y scale. The animator is basically what does this animation, and if I go over to the visibility button, if I turn that off, then you can see there's no animation happening on it. If I turn it on, we'll see the animation happens. If I want to get rid of the preset, I can just select it and delete it, and it's gone. Now actually, I want to find a preset in my Effects and Presets menu here that I've remembered that I like, and this one is got text bouncing in, so I'm going to type in bounce, and that's going to show me lots of different effects and presets with the word bouncing. But if I go into text, I can see text bounce. That's the first text preset in there. That's the one I want. Wherever my current time indicator is on the timeline, that's where the animation will start. So let's say I want it to start frame 10. I can then take text bounce, drag it on there, release, and now if I play back, I can see my text drops into shot and bounces. Many of the presets have got little controls within them that you can change, but this particular preset, like a few of them, have effects controls up here. This one has 4: frequency of the bounce and character delay and a couple of other options there. I can play with them, so if I bring the frequency of the bounce up, for example, you'll see the bounce. So that's a higher frequency, and then obviously if I bring that number down, okay, there's a whole bunch of settings we can change in here. In addition to this, I want to add a background. So I'm going to go Layer, New, Solid, make something that sticks out from this. So maybe I'm going to go for an orange solid. So I'll move the hue up into this kind of deep orange. And I'll pop that behind the text. I also want to create a shape for this. So rather than just the text on its own, I'm going to have it on top of a little shape. So I'm going to go up to my shape tool. Now it's important when you use this that you do not have a layer selected. If I have a layer selected, I'm going to create a mask. In this case, I'm masking out the solid. There you go. There you go. So instead, if I undo that, I'll just make sure neither of my layers are selected. And now if I go to my shape tool, I can draw a shape. So I'm going to grab a rounded rectangle tool and draw a shape. That's created a new shape layer. Of course, I want to put that below my text, and I want to center it up. So I can also, with that layer selected, align it to the horizontal center and the vertical center. Now it's a little bit bigger than I want, so I'm going to go into the contents, into rectangle path, and I can change the scale. That's changing the height and the width. I want to bring it down a little bit, but then I want to use this little chain button to unlink it, which means now I can just change the height down a little bit. So something like that. Okay, that's nice. I might pop a little drop shadow on that shape as well. So even while it's playing back, I can go over to my effects and presets. If I know the name of an effect, I can just type it in. If I type in the word drop, I've got several effects with a drop in. If I put a space and put S for shadow, I don't need to go any further. Drop shadow, that's what I want. I'll select it, drag it and drop it onto my shape layer. And I can see a little shadow kicking off the edge of that. It's a little bit hard to see, so if I increase the distance, you can see there's my drop shadow. So there it is. I'm going to soften it up as well. There we go, that's looking good. So there's my animated text. My text is just dropping down. I've not done any keyframe animation. I've just used the text preset. If I wanted the text not to be starting at the top of the screen, but only to appear inside the box, then I'd need to do something else. What I need to do is create something like a track map to be able to say, oh, only show me the text when it's inside of this shape. And to do that, I'm going to make a duplicate of the shape layer. I can select the shape layer, edit, duplicate. That makes a copy of it. And I'm going to put this copy above the text layer. And then I'm going to press this second button down here to expand my view. And that's going to show me my transfer controls and my track map options. Now a track map means one layer looks at the layer above it and what's not visible. So at the moment, because I've got this shape on top of the text, I'm not seeing the text when it's in the box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enable this track map. If I say alpha map, use the layer above, so the track map always uses the layer above. If I say use the layer above, it's now going to use that as a track map. And if I play that back, now that is contained within that red box.